Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, where we bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. Companies going after massive multi-billion-dollar market opportunities that are at an inflection point right now and have multiple catalysts in place. And here is our debut with Hoth Therapeutics, HOTH, on NASDAQ, and the CEO, Rob Nye. Rob, welcome to the program.
Appreciate you having me on. Look forward to talking to the audience, telling everybody about Hoth Therapeutics and the opportunities that we're working on.
Absolutely, Rob. As I open up, we don't want to. We're setting a very high bar here. Look, our audience, they're looking for 10-bagger stocks. We've had a bunch of these stocks that have gone up 10x, 20x, 50x. I think our last biotech went up 20x over the course of a year. So, what people want, can we start off with? Like, what would it take for Hoth? We're trading at about $1.30, and what would it take for this thing to be, potentially a $15 stock, a $50 stock, billion-dollar company? Can it get there? And if so, what's the path to get there? What needs to happen?
I started this company over 5 years ago. We built this company with each and every asset licensing on ourselves from different universities and inventions of our own. So we have been in this for the long term to make this work. We believe we have an amazing pipeline that has tremendous value and opportunity. If I could just talk a little bit about our pipeline and some of the stuff that's going on, I think your audience and yourself will get a better understanding about the company. So HT001 is our drug that's currently in the clinic treating patients. We released some data in January about how well the trial was going. All patients were able to continue their chemotherapy treatment without stopping. It's a big deal. People don't realize when you go through EGFR chemotherapy treatment, over 30% of patients have to stop their treatment because of these horrible lesions that take over the body. And over 70% of patients get these horrible lesions. So we're one of the first drugs that are in the clinic to address this unmet need. It's a billion-dollar opportunity in our mind. We think, this has tremendous value to other companies who are developing chemotherapy and EGFR and cancer treatments, because the number one side effect in most of these drugs is a rash that then stops treatment. So we think it's a huge opportunity. Another drug that we're working on is called HT-KIT, licensed out of NC State. This is our cancer therapeutic that has shown tremendous preclinical results where it has killed tumors in a matter of hours and stopped tumor growth. This is our oligonucleotide drug. We recently got orphan drug status for it. We put out some preclinical data not too long ago. We're waiting on further data before we then start our trial in 2026. And a competitor to
it's killed cancerous tumors, you said, in a matter of hours?
Matter of hours. It has stopped tumor growth and actually killed the tumor cells.
Okay. So, and this has been so far, this has been in the animal model. We haven't gone into the clinic for human. Okay.
Correct.
So this is the okay. So you have basically four major drugs that you're developing right now. Each of these are going after potentially billion-dollar markets.
Oh, they're all big markets. I think, as I mentioned, HT-KIT, one of our competitors, Blueprint, just got bought out for $9 billion. So we happen to think we have a drug that is pretty competitive. Like I said, it's in preclinical. We also have, if I could talk a little bit about our obesity drug that we licensed from the Veterans Administration. So we're working actually with the U.S. government on a drug for obesity that came out of science. Science that was developed at the Veterans Administration. Hot market, great preclinical results. We're looking forward to working with the government to develop this in conjunction with the Veterans Administration. And then obviously we have our Alzheimer's drug as well that we recently applied for some grants, and we're waiting to hear back on that too. So we've got all these opportunities in the pipeline that we believe present great value for shareholders. We have cash in the bank. We have no debt. As I said, insiders have only been buyers over time, never sellers. We think we have a very compelling story.
Okay, so I think also what's compelling, and we'll go into the details of each of these drugs that's in the pipeline. We'll go through the whole pipeline. and details in just a bit. But I think what's really compelling for long-term oriented investors is that right now we're kind of like at the bottom of the biotech cycle. The biotech market goes, you've been this, it goes through these cycles, and this has been a very rough cycle. So in a normal market, a stock like Hoth would be trading at, I don't know how much, like at least 10x higher, just with normal valuations. I mean, the market has been.
We think so. These are our opinions. So are right that the stock should be trading at a higher valuation than it is. We have a little over 13 million shares outstanding. As I said, we have cash in the bank. The last 5 years, biotech has been very much, not loved by investors at all. But I think that's changing. I think these changes, even at the FDA today, where Trump in his last term had right to try, is a big deal. Where patients were able to try drugs that had not been approved yet, who had no other treatments at their disposal. So I think the FDA is definitely, wants to work with companies, wants to see them succeed, wants to see them get through the clinic faster and get drugs on the market that can make a difference with little to no side effects. And like I said, one of our drugs is treating side effects of chemotherapy rash and, chemo. So, and we're hope to have more data on that drug in the months ahead. We have a KOL set up for the end of this month where we'll be talking about the trial and some of the results with two of the primary investigators. So we think that's a big catalyst also for the company.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so in terms of the big picture, I mean, you have basically the stock is trading, I think when we started, the stock was trading below its cash value. Right now, you're basically just above there. So it's almost like you're getting the company for free. Basically, it's like a free bet. And biotech at the end of the day, you're making a bet. You never really know if something, but you're getting 4 major bets for free. Let me ask you, okay, now this 10 million, is that enough? Is that enough to take you? How far will that take you with the 4 projects right now?
Great question. I think that's the biggest thing about biotech, right? Biotechs are known to burn money, right? You have so many trials underway and you continue to need money. Here's something that I think is a little bit different from what a lot of biotechs that are going on. We run a very lean operation. That's number one. So we try to keep our burn down. On our current cash position, we have over a year's cash, which gets us a lot of trial data on HT001, gets us in the clinic on HT-KIT. So if you think about this in a sense that we have cash to get us data, that data becomes that much more valuable to partners, people who might want to own the company outright. These potential partners, obviously, sometimes they'll partner with you and give you cash. Other times they just want to own the company. So we're building this to find the right partners to work with us to bring these drugs to market. We're not looking to say, hey, let's build a sales force and be the next Pfizer going door to door to doctors' offices. No, we're building these for the Pfizers and the AstraZenecas of the world who want to own the next class of drugs that are going to make a huge difference in these markets.
Yeah. So our audience is mostly retail investors. So I just to make it clear, I think it's very important to make it clear that again, the way these biotech stocks are valued is as the companies progress, as they reach new milestones, all of a sudden the valuation could explode because ultimately everybody it's like everybody knows at the end of the day these drugs are going to be sold, either licensed, sold, or somebody's going to buy the company. But all of a sudden you can go from something which is worth, I don't know, let's say let's maybe this might be a tough question, but let's say you had some positive data on one of these drugs. I mean, really positive. That could. What kind of impact could that have on the stock? I mean, we see stocks, biotech stocks.
I can't be a stock prognosticator, right, for my company, unfortunately. But I will say, if we have good data, it's a game changer for the company, right? I mean, we've seen stocks go from dollars to $50, from $1 to $50 overnight based on trial results. And then, once you hit those kind of numbers, the companies are well funded or partners want to own them. We can go through a number of biotech companies that, as you said, the lottery ticket that you're kind of buying, right? That have had good data and the stocks have not doubled or tripled, but have gone up 10 or 15 times overnight. So we're hoping that when we progress, show data and the confidence that we have in our studies, in the programs we have, that the investor community will then take more note. Obviously, there's always risk involved in biotech, as you said earlier, but we're pretty excited about the pipeline that we've built. We've licensed from, like I said, top universities like George Washington, NC State, and working even with the government now, as I said, on the Veterans Administration, on licensing on this obesity drug, which we think is a big deal.
I think,
and then we're looking, how can we move into, like Europe and move our trial along quicker in Europe, because that's a place that, gets patients enrolled quickly as well. And there's opportunity there to license throughout these different geographies, not just the US.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think our internet froze for a second. Okay, so I'm glad we're back here. Yeah, no, this is no, it's really the stock is in a very compelling situation right now. Again, like everything is lined up. I look at these things as, okay, what's an asymmetric? Looking at this as an investor, I look at this as, okay, this is an asymmetric setup. You got a company trading at near cash value. You got the market that's at the bottom of the biotech market is at the bottom of the cycle. There's a lot of catalysts for it to move up. The stock has multiple catalysts. Everything is really there. I like also the charts. The charts look great. Not that means anything for the fundamentals. Okay, it's what's also I should add is Hoth. Speaking of the charts and the stuff, Hoth has a history of having major moves. We've had some major parabolic spikes in the stock with positive news. So I think if any type of positive news, we could have one of these parabolic spikes.
In January, our stock was under $1, and one day it went to $3.80, I believe, on 400 million shares traded. So we've had these, days where the stock has had these parabolic moves. So well noted, and that was on some trial data. And like I said, we have looking forward to sharing more data with the investment community on that particular trial and others.
Okay, so let's again. So I think so I think Hoth is attractive, to two different types of people. Like either speculators who kind of see the setup. They say, okay, this could have a massive move. Like any day, this stock could triple, like it's done in the past overnight. And then long-term investors who are like, okay, they understand the fundamentals. They're looking at the whole program, and they see kind of the path to this being potentially 10 bag or more down the road. So let's go into the details. Let's go through each of your programs, and maybe you can give us some of the fundamentals, and also what are the milestones for each one of these? What are the key milestones that we could look forward to? Which you want to start off with the oncology, or which one do you want to start with?
Sure. I think let's talk about HT001 for a moment. Okay. That's the one that's currently in the clinic treating patients at places like MD Anderson, NYU, Miami University, all these different top tier hospitals in the United States. And that drug, as I mentioned, is for what's called chemotherapy rash, of which over 70% of patients develop when they go through EGFR treatment. Over 30% of those patients have to stop their treatment, which puts their life at risk due to these rashes. Our drug is treating those patients, first in its category, to go after this treatment for these EGFR inhibitors. There's nothing on the market for this right now. How do you treat it right now? Corticosteroids that really don't work, sometimes antibiotics. Sometimes the doctor says you got to power through it and hope you're okay so you can continue your treatment. So we're really bringing hope to a market that has no hope currently. And the results so far have shown that the drug works. So pretty exciting. Phase 2 trial, further data this year on the trial. End of June, as I said, we're having that KOL event where two of the primary investigators will discuss, one, an investigator-led study results, and two, trial results. So that's coming up, I believe, June 24th. Don't have the date in front of me.
So this is it's in phase 2 right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a couple things. So EGFR, you mentioned, what does EGFR mean?
So EGFR is the type of drug that's used for cancer patients. Most cancer patients use what's called an EGFR inhibitor that lets them go through the different trials. That's a drug that treats you for your cancer, right? So if you think about a lot of patients that go through when people say chemotherapy, right? they're being treated what's called an EGFR inhibitor to kill the tumor. Unfortunately, when you're taking that drug, there's a lot of side effects. Cutaneous lesions, rashes are the number one side effect of this drug. So we're out there. You have to think about, to an extent, also these companies that are developing these different cancer-fighting drugs. Like I said, what's the number one side effect? Rash. We're developing the treatment for the number one side effect. We're allowing patients to continue their treatment, to not have to stop. So it's a pretty exciting drug to keep patients not only healthy, satisfied, and able to continue the treatment, but keeping them alive to an extent because they're not stopping their treatment. It's a big deal.
Okay.
Big
No, so it's okay. No, it's okay. No, I can see. So it's a huge deal. The chemotherapy market, what is it? It's like it's like an $18 billion market. How big is that?
$18 billion market. That's correct.
Okay. Huge market. What's the market opportunity for this drug that you're developing? What do you think this could do? Like, what's the?
So obviously we think this is a huge market. I'm not going to say, give you exact numbers for it. We have an internal study. Yes, we have an internal study that shows it to be, something that could obviously propel the company to much greater heights, whether through us commercializing the drug, but more one of the larger pharma companies wanting to own this. If you think about it, if you're a large pharma company and this is the number one side effect you have, and you own the drug, you own the market, right? What drug do you want to be treated with? I want to be treated with the drug that they have the side effect for. So pretty big deal, pretty big market. And as I said, if you look at the current trial results that we announced, great results, great efficacy, great safety profile, and we hope to have more data in end of this month and then later throughout the year as well. So the more data we get, the more valuable the drug becomes, the more valuable the company becomes, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the catalyst coming up, what you want to go you want to go through some of the things. Maybe if people can jot down some notes, like they could put it on the watch list. For when this happens,
there's certain things I can talk about, certain things that I can't, obviously, right? So we did announce that we want to expand the program so more patients have the right to use the drug. So I think that's a catalyst that we can look forward to, that investors could see that's happening. Sort of a right to try type program for those docs who say, hey, I need to use this. I'm not in a clinical trial, but my patient really needs this. Obviously, the KOL event that I mentioned, these key opinion leaders, 2 primary investigators that are going to talk about the drug itself and some of the results. So we'll talk about that, towards the end of June.
Why is that a big deal? Like, what's the significance of this event?
So you're getting 2 key leaders in the market. You're getting Dr. Adam Friedman, who's the head of dermatology at George Washington University, who did a case study using HT001 on a patient with breast cancer. He'll probably share pictures and results of that trial, investigator-led study. Then you'll have Dr. John Zippen, who's the vice chair at Weill Cornell, share some data on the study and how much this drug is needed. And you'll see some of the trial results in that KOL event as well.
Okay. And what will this event do? This key opinion leader event? Like,
it educates the market, gives more data on the current program and how it's progressing and results of patients. I think the other thing it really does, though, is it highlights to potential partners. We get, these docs who are key opinion leaders in this whole market themselves addressing this and talking about how promising the drug is or the results of the trial thus far. So I think that's a big deal, credibility-wise, results-wise, and having these 2 docs that I said are key leaders in their market.
Okay. I guess the idea is also to kind of, tee up this for, to bring in potential partners, like one of these pharma companies, 100%. Maybe they want, that's the whole, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a big.
I'll move to another one of the drugs, if that's okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about the obesity market, because we know the obesity market is on fire lately. Companies are getting bought left and right for multi-billion dollars. even ones that are preclinical. So your investors could look up obesity preclinical buyouts, and you'll see there's been a lot of them. We have a drug that we licensed recently, a few months ago, from the Veterans Administration of the U.S. government for obesity. And that drug is also being used for liver disease as well. And we have the rights for that too, but we're focused right now on the obesity. So we hope to further work with the U.S. government to bring that drug to market through more preclinical work and then eventually the clinical trials. But, I think it's a credibility to the company that we're working with an agency at the U.S. government that has great oversight and where the technology has been, developed. And we look forward to working with the VA and talking to them further how we could help veterans with their obesity and, treat them concurrently with the VA. So we look forward to announcing some further working relationships, hopefully with the VA shortly.
Okay. And then
is that okay if I go on to HTK?
Oh no. Yeah. I'm go through. I'm checking off the whole list. Yeah. So we got the obesity. We got the dermatology. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah. Keep going.
HTK is our tumor fighting drug. Real super exciting. That's out of NC State. Preclinical results, as I mentioned, it's probably one of our most exciting drugs. Preclinical results that show killing the tumors within hours of the drug being taken in animal studies. We got orphan drug status for this, which, you apply for the FDA. It's a rigorous process. The FDA granted us that. Our next stage of the trial, which we hope to announce, later this year, is we're starting the primate study. So as soon as we start the primate study, show the safety that the animals are surviving or that we're killing the tumors in them, we move to the human stage of HT-KIT. HT-KIT's a huge opportunity. There's no doubt about this. As I mentioned, Blueprint got bought for $9 billion. Ionis is also, an oligonucleotide company that's developed using the same type of format of delivery method of drugs, is a $7 billion company. So we need some success here to show in HT-KIT, and that propels us dramatically. And then the other drug I'll just bring up is our Alzheimer's drug, which we recently did a study at Washington University in St. Louis. And we're waiting to hear back on some further data on that in the next month or two ahead that we look forward to sharing with the market. And as I mentioned, our current plan allows us to get through the next 18 months without, burning all our cash. So, we're not going to sit here and say, we're going to need money tomorrow, because we're funded in a way that allows us to move our pipeline forward this year in a really good way and have significant data to share with the market.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. I think, the big thing with companies in the biotech space is, they may have, the great science or whatever, but, if they don't have the cash, they can't move these things forward, and then they have to do a lot of dilution. And so you don't have that risk.
Yeah, I'm not looking, we're not looking to raise money at 80 cents a share, $1 a share. It's just not what we're looking to do. We believe in the company. I think the biggest thing is for us also in trying to explain this is we have a very clean cap table, right? We don't have millions of warrants outstanding. We don't have any debt. We've kept the company very clean, its balance sheet, and continue to do so and work hard on that. We're, like I said, we're very thorough in keeping the company running where we're not burning loads of cash on multiple programs that cannot move forward. We take each program at a step and say, okay, where can we move to get the most amount of data, most bang for a buck, most return for our investors.
Okay. Yeah. See, like your background is it was in banking for what's your because you take a different approach. You're right. Okay.
I was an analyst for quite a while.
Okay, so you understand the concept of was I guess maximizing shareholder value, right?
I do.
So the company,
yeah,
that's I guess.
I think there's I think there's three roles to this job, right? The number one role is to develop these therapeutics to get returns for our investors, right? There's a public company role where we have to be very careful on how we spend our money, how we raise our money, and how we put it towards the best programs that give us the best opportunity to be successful. And the third part of it, quite honestly, is, an investor myself, communicating to the market on what we're doing so they better understand what we're working on today and for tomorrow.
No, it's very, very important. Now, okay, so let me ask you this: you have these 4 programs, or actually technically 5, with the obesity drug. How do you how do you choose which programs that to pick up? How do which is it, it's an opportunistic approach? What's the strategy behind it? And are you going to add more programs?
Yeah, I don't see us adding more programs right now. I mean, our goal right now is we've got a really great pipeline. How do we monetize what we have, right? How do we know which programs to allocate dollars to? And we started a subsidiary wholly owned by the company called Maryville.ai. So we use Maryville.ai, which is wholly owned by Hoth Therapeutics, put the programs all into an AI database that we kind of use NVIDIA for that. And we say, okay, here are the programs. Which ones need these dollars? Which ones give us closest to patient data? Which one have the most advanced studies that are there? And then I kind of allocate the dollars that way. So in my mind, the way I look at it using Maryville AI, which is, like I said, wholly owned by us, I look at it and I say, okay, I can take HT001 because I've got the most animal data on it. That puts me in the clinic right away, gives me the best shot with the FDA to move forward and get to patients. We're there. We're in the clinic today, right? We're treating patients in a phase 2. I say HT kit, hey, I need to do one more study before I can get into humans and show how worthwhile this drug is. So I'm using the different components in front of me that we have. And hey, AI is one of them. I'm not going to not use it because it's something that's new to the biotech space.
Yeah. No, so it's a game changer. Okay, it's a complete game changer. So basically, okay, so there's so you have, again, with these programs, so it's a real data-driven approach that you take, and the AI really does it for you pretty much. Or turbocharges.
It definitely helps us, and it helps us balance what would give us the best type of returns for the company and for investors.
Right. I mean, that's the key thing, because essentially you're the same job as you were doing before. You're basically a portfolio manager, right? You're allocating capital towards, picking the best, the best bet, essentially.
Correct.
So, okay, no, very interesting. Okay, so we went through the products. You have a bunch of catalysts in place. Let me ask you a question. Looking long term, assuming, I usually, it's funny, I usually ask these questions, I just realized, to non-biotech companies, but the question I ask is, what will the company look like, 2-3 years from now? But with biotech, you never know. I mean, if you get good data, it could be, but let's say
you never know 2 years from now whether we're bought or not by somebody who wants to own us, right?
Yeah. So if everything goes right, though, what's your vision for Hoth, 2 years out?
Yeah, I think the vision really is, we get results more for HT001, shows the efficacy of the program, the safety of the program, and the need by patients. Category killer, new drug, nothing on the market currently for that. That's something that is a huge opportunity for any player in the space. HT kit, I think getting into the human trial in the next 12 months lays a foundation for a drug that, as you mentioned, billion-dollar opportunities. Well, like I said, a competitor got bought for $9 billion recently. There's preclinical folks that have been bought for, hundreds of millions, or with payouts over $1 billion. So I think in the next 12 to 24 months, the company looks dramatically different because we have tons of human data. We are in a study on more than just one drug, 2 to 3 drugs. Are going to be in a clinical trial. So I think, we're going to be unrecognizable from the sense that where we are today is a small, company that has one drug in trial to a company that's going to have multiple drugs in trial that present tremendous opportunity.
Okay. So, and I think that's the phase, I think, we're like the institutional investors really take an interest in the stock, right? Where you have this broad pipeline where you have data, that's when you get like the serious money. Then of course the stock would be trading in in normal market above 100. Usually when companies in that phase usually are north of 100 million market.
Preclinical companies trading today at hundreds of millions of dollars. I think part of what we see today is biotech has been unloved. Maybe that changes dramatically with the new FDA administration and new therapeutics coming to market, because there's more of a highlight on bringing treatment to patients at a quicker pace. So I think that could change dramatically. I think you're seeing the IPO market open up where there are more biotechs currently going public. So that puts a spotlight on some of the smaller companies that say, hey, there's tremendous opportunities in these companies that were beaten down that nobody knew about. So there are going to be, and like I said, also giving data on the trials and on the drugs is a game changer, right? That brings, potential partners to the table. I'm attending the Bio Conference in Boston next week. We have a full list of, folks who want to meet with us and talk about the various drugs in our pipeline. So I think there's interest. There's no doubt.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So the question is the company, so one of the things we look for is kind of that inflection point, where you go from where the value all of a sudden can explode. How close are you to that inflection point where all of a sudden, you're there? Okay.
I feel like in the next, when we complete the PK part of the trial for HG001, there's different cohorts in this trial, just so you know. We hope to complete that this year. That's a game changer for the company. We're there. It's an interesting thing with biotech. Just, and as a former, hedge fund guy, I'll kind of give you my take. You can buy them on the way up, right? Where there's some risk. You could buy them when they go from 1 to say 50. And then you say, okay, the risk is out of it. I'd rather buy it at 50, right?
Right.
So there's always, there's two ways to look at it. It's being educated on this marketplace, where the drugs are, what the development looks like, where these drugs came from. I think we have some powerhouse universities that we work with that have done preclinical work and inventions for us. So I like to think we did a good job vetting our pipeline. I think we use great experts who are going to bring success to our pipeline as well.
Right. No, so yeah, like as you said, there's two ways to play these things. Either you buy when, again, it's been de-risked, when there's already the data, but then the stock at that point is, could be $50, or you buy here where there's a lot of risk, but you're getting it. The stock is $1.30 or whatever it is, right? So it's like,
right, you're buying the risk, right? 100%.
Okay, so we're basically at this moment. Okay, let's talk about over the next let's call it 90 days, right? 90 days out. Maybe we can recap. You mentioned some of the catalysts, but let's recap. What could investors look for? Actually, how about 60 days? I mean, I think a lot of people in our audience they don't have patience. They can't wait 3 months. Well, what are the key catalysts that you have for, let's call it, between now and 60 days?
As I mentioned, end of the month, the KOL leader that we're going to talk about, the trial, some of the results, some of the investigator-led studies, talking about HG001, how it's working, what the results look like. Working on HT kit, more preclinical results we hope to share with the marketplace. Also our clinical plan. VA, like I said, we're trying to look for partners who want to work with us on that particular drug on obesity, working further with the government on it. We hope to put something in place with them shortly where we're developing the drug in conjunction with them, with using their resources and ours. So those are just 3 things that we could look at. But these are all things that are going to make a difference to the investment community, because they'll see what we're working on and that there's tangible results. So I hope to share these things in the next 60 days when we have more, pen to paper, and we could talk about some of these opportunities a little bit more.
Okay, so I guess John, I guess you addressed some of John's questions. The news flow, basically, I guess he's asking about the news flow.
I mean, look, I can only, we can only share what we can share that's public, right? We have to, everything has to be, market public data. So as I said, giving John, an answer, when we're going to get more trial updates. I think that we put out that announcement that you saw recently is going to talk a little bit more about the trial results for HT001 and give investors a better idea where we are and what some of the results look like. Like I said, we have these key opinion leaders who are investigators in the trial who could talk a little bit more about what's going on. And they could also talk about some of the science if investors or partners have, further questions on mechanism of action, how these drugs work, if they have side effects themselves. I think these are important developments that we're looking to share.
Okay. So the bottom line is there should be we should be seeing a steady pace of news flow.
Hey, I think we're one of the more communicative companies in the market. We try to communicate with our investors. We take the calls. We update as things change. Whether it's trial results, preclinical results, partnerships, we look to share each and every aspect of what's going on in the company. We want to communicate. We want our investors to know we're in this together and, sharing the data as we get it or how we're working to progress the programs.
Okay. So there's the big bio conference coming up. What is it, next week? I think
I'll be there. That's in Boston. That's June 16th through 18th. We've got, like I said, a full schedule. We're looking forward to meeting, various players in the space and possible partners as well.
Okay, excellent. Final question, Rob, is the one we always ask CEOs at the end is, in your opinion, what are the top 3 reasons, why investors should consider Hoth today?
Look, I think there's tons of opportunities in the market each and every day, which is great. I mean, it gives investors, whether you're a tech investor, an energy investor, or a biotech investor, it's a plethora of ideas and opportunities. I think we put together a great pipeline, that's touching different ends of the market, whether it's the chemo rash drug, whether it's obesity or our cancer drug that's shrinking tumors, right? It's killing tumors. I think we have a great amount of scientists that have developed these programs and put their life's work into it that we're now taking to the next steps to develop. And like I said, we're close. We're close on data. We're close on getting more patients in the trial. We're close on getting HT-Kit enrolled where patients are using it. And patients are currently using HT001 today. I don't think there's a lot of companies that have as many shots on goal, that have great opportunities ahead of them, that have a clean cap table, that presents, the type of opportunities that we think we have. But I'm obviously biased as the CEO, but I put my life into this the last 5 years. So I want to, I'm in here to make this a long-term success.
Excellent. Okay. On that note, Rob, I want to thank you, and we'll catch up with you probably after the next major news announcement. We'll have you back on, hopefully with answer some more investor questions. Great having you on, Rob. Thank you, and good luck at the Boston conference.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the all the folks also listening.
Great. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Bye now.